everybody, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're going to continue learning some stitches that provide different textures, and today's video is the double stitch, not to be confused with a double crochet. This is not a double crochet, this is a double stitch, and each of these stitches is actually worked. You use two spaces to create one stitch, and I will show you what I mean in just a few moments. So to get started, we will start with a slip knot, and then we will do our chain. And for this stitch, you're going to do a chain in multiples of 2. And then you will add 2 more onto that. And so I'm going to do a chain of 20 and then add 2 more, which will give me a total of 22. So right here I have my 20, which is my multiple of 2, and then I'm going to add 2 more. So 1, 2. Now, as I said, this stitch actually spans across 2 spaces, and I'll show you what I mean here in just a minute. So we're going to skip the first 2, and we're going to be working on the back here on those little bumps right there. We're going to skip the first 2, so there's 1 and 2, and we're going to go into that third one. We're going to grab our yarn, pull it through, and we're going to leave it on the hook. So you've got 2 on the hook. You're going to leave it on the hook and go to that next space and go through there and grab up another loop. And that's going to give you 3 on your hook, and then you're going to yarn over and pull through all 3. And then what you're going to do is in that space that you pulled up your last loop on, you're going to go back into that space, bring up a loop, leave it on, go to the next space, bring up a loop, and then pull through all 3. So for each stitch, you start in the space that you ended the previous stitch. So you're going to go back through that same loop, grab your yarn, go to the next one, bring up your yarn, and then pull through all 3. And so here's where we pulled up that last loop. We're going to go back through there, pull up our loop, go to the next one, bring up our loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3. And you just keep doing this all the way to the very end of your row. I'll show you a couple more times. So here's where we pulled up our last loop. We're going to go back through that one, bring up our loop, go to the next one, go through, grab our yarn. That gives us our 3 loops, and we're going to grab our yarn and go through all 3. And then you just keep doing that. So here's where we just pulled up our yarn, and that'll be the same one that we go in when we start our next stitch. Oops. Okay, got my yarn, move to the next one, and then pull through all 3. And then you'll keep doing that until you reach the end of your row. Okay, here we are at the end of the row. I'm going to finish these off. So I'm going to go through that same space that I did my last loop, bring up a loop, and then come here to this very last one and pull through all 3. And then I'm going to chain 2, so 1, 2, turn, and you're going to start in that first space. So you're going to go through there, bring up a loop, go to the next one, grab your yarn, bring up a loop, then you're going to grab your yarn and pull through all 3. And then it's a little easier to see. So this is the one we just did. We're going to go back through that same one, and then move to the next one, and then yarn over and pull through all 3. Go into that space, bring up your loop, go to the next space, and you are working under both loops, and then pull through all 3. And then we're going to go back to that same loop, or same space, bring up our loop, go to the next one, bring up our loop. And so you're actually using 2 spaces to create this one stitch. And you continue that till you reach the end of your row. And here we are at the end of the row, and I'm going to do my final stitch. So I'm going to go through this one that I had worked my last one in, bring up my loop, and then I'm going to go through this last little chain here, that one right there. Make sure you're only going under those 2 loops. Sometimes you have to work it through. And then you bring up your loop and finish your stitch. And then you will chain 2, turn your work, and start on your next row. So we're going to go through this first one, bring up a loop, go through this next one, bring up a loop, and go through all 3, and that starts your next row. Now we're going to come back through this loop, the last loop we did, the last space, bring up our loop, go through the next space, bring up our loop, and pull through all 3. And then you'll just continue doing that until you have made the number of rows that your pattern says to do. So I'll show you a couple more times. And of course, the smaller the hook size, the smaller your stitches will be. I'm using the 6.5 millimeter just so that the stitches are large enough to see. And then you just keep on going until you reach the end of your row. So here I've come to the end of my row, and to do my last stitch so my edge stays nice and straight, I'm going to make my stitch. I'm going to go through that same space that I did my last stitch in, bring up my loop, and then we're going to look down here. You can see this space here. You've got the one piece here, and then if you twist it, you've got your 2 strands here, your 2 loops there. You're going to take and go under the two loops, and then the one loop will be on the back of your hook. Bring up your loop and then pull through all three, and that creates a nice flat straight edge. And then you'll chain two, and you'll do that same thing at the end of each of your rows from this point on until you have done the number of rows that your pattern calls for. And then you just continue like you did with the other rows. And then I will show you what it looks like after you've done quite a few rows. And here we are. I've done a number of rows so you could see the full effect. And you end up with this nice little design and texture. And it looks the same on both sides. And it's relatively flat. There's not really a ridge or texture looking at it from the side view. And that is how you do the double stitch, not to be confused with the double crochet. This is a double stitch. Thank you for watching my video. Hopefully this has been helpful, and don't forget to subscribe. Feel free to share my videos, and I will see you all next time.